Okay, now that we understand context, states, events, services, and actions, we can now really start honing into what our to-do app is going to do. And let's use all the primitives that we've got so far to build something cool. So I'm going to grab this and open this up a little bit more so we've got a bit more space to tackle the thing that we're building. So let's go into the to-do app machine file, and let's say we've started working on our loading to-dos state over here. We know what happens when they error. We know that when we go into the to-dos loaded state, now this is where kind of the most of the action of the app is going to happen. And we know that when we reach this spot, we're going to have all the to-dos in our context, and we're going to be able to start editing them, adding new ones, etc. So in order to make this work, we're going to need another state here, which is kind of like creating a to-do. And let's imagine that the requirements are when you're creating a to-do, you don't show the to-dos that are loaded on the screen. So we're going to go to here and we're going to say create new to-do. Or rather, let's say creating new to-do. And this new state there that I just added by double clicking inside this kind of black section there, we're probably going to need an event to take us there when the to-dos are loaded. And we're going to click and drag over to here and say create new. And that create new, it's going to just sort of send us all the way to creating new to-do. So if we simulate that, we go from loading to-dos, we get the to-dos in our context, and then we create a new to-do. And this creating new to-do state is probably going to be like a separate sort of page, or it's going to hide the to-dos that are on screen. And there's probably going to be quite a lot that happens inside there. And so what we can do is we can actually go one level deeper and start specifying states inside the creating new to-do state. So this is cool. You can actually go deep, 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 sort of inception of states, you know. So we're going to add this plus, or press this plus button here. And we now need to start thinking about, okay, when we go to the creating new to-do state, what's going to happen inside there, and what's the first thing that the user sees? Probably just like an empty form input or something, right? So showing form input, and let me just center that again. And so let's imagine that it's like a little form input. When you change the form input, we're probably going to need to kind of capture that information inside the context, right? So we're going to I'm going to click there on that little handle and drag it to the state itself. And this allows you to create what's called a self transition. So this event here is going to be form input changed. And let's say if we click there, form input changed. Now what this is going to do is it's going to, when the user presses change on the input, it's going to kind of send that new value into our context. And so if I just grab this out here, I'm just going to save the file to get the formatting with Prettier. Now, form input changed, I'm going to add an action here, and I'm going to say assign form input to context. That's an important step we need to do. And we also need to add this information to our context. So we have new form, or creates new to do form input, which is going to be a string. And let's say and then the assign form input to context, we're going to now need to say, so when the form input changes, we're going to need to send the new value along with it. So for that, we're going to need to re-specify our events inside our schema. So this is going to be type. We need to add the create new event here, which we added just there. We're also going to need to add the form input changed. Form input changed. And then we can add the new value as a string. Because if we imagine the user is typing in there, we listen for the on change, and we can assign that to context. So let's add the assign down here. Assign context event. And then return, let's see, create new to do form input event dot value. Okay, cool. So that seems to be working now. So what we're going to do is we're going to start hooking this up into the UI. And to do that, we'll go into the index.tsx. I'll close this window. And we basically need to check that when we're in a certain state, we need to show a certain certain things on the screen. Let's probably keep this stuff around for a while. Let's add a new div, and we're going to say we need to check when the state matches a certain value. And to do that, we can go state.matches, which is a function, and then we can pass in. We probably need to check if we're in the to-dos loaded state. And if we are in the to-dos loaded state, we're going to add a button and say create new. And on click, that button is going to send type create new. So let's check that that works first of all. We're going to go back to our application here, and I'll just refresh. And we say, okay, we've got a to-dos in our context. Now when we create new, it should change the state value up here. I'll make this a bit bigger. And there we go. We now have creating new to-do showing form input. So let's show a form input when we're in that state. So state.matches, creating new to-do showing form input, and input. And we'll say on change, we're going to go E, which is the event that we get from the on change. And we'll go send type form input changed value event.target.value. So let's see if this works. We're going to again refresh the page. We're in our to-dos loaded state. We create new, and we have our input here. And now you should notice when we change the text here, the context also updates. Woohoo! Pretty cool. So let's say take bins out, and we next need to implement our submit handler and get everything working there.